Hi everyone, Katie Strothman here, Technical Service Representative for BASF. Today I just wanted to take a moment to talk to you guys about Operation Weed Eradication. No, we're not going to be able to wipe all of the weeds off the face of the earth entirely, as nice as that might seem. The goal of Operation Weed Eradication is to eradicate key weeds on farm, in the field. What would you say is your most troublesome weed? I'm willing to guess that most everybody had a pretty similar answer. Something like a common water hemp or a Palmer amaranth. These pigweeds have really gotten the reputation of being tough customers in row crop weed control. And that's the goal behind Operation Weed Eradication, is to provide information to help growers remove these weeds from their fields. But why? As I already said, pigweeds kind of have a reputation in the agricultural community, and the reason that they have that reputation is because of the high levels of resistance that they have been known to develop. In fact, out here in Kansas, we're no different. Just a few years back, Kansas State found a population of pigweeds on one of their research farms that had 6 different herbicide cytoactions to which those weeds were resistant. Not only did it include common herbicides that we would expect, things like glyphosate and ALS herbicides like Pursuit, as well as atrazine and HPPDs, and not least, lactofen, which is a PPO herbicide. Those pigweeds were also resistant to our auxin chemistries, things like 2,4-D and dicamba. That's a really big deal, seeing as those are some of the most commonly used herbicides in soybean weed control in Kansas to date. We think about some more recent data that came out at the beginning of this year in 2021. The University of Arkansas found a population of pigweeds that they believe to be resistant to glufosinate or Liberty. If that is the case, those are the first broadleaf weeds anywhere in the world to have achieved resistance to glufosinate or Liberty. A lot of us have heard over the years when we talk about herbicide resistance management that having at least 2.5 effective sites of action in a tank mix can decrease the likelihood of selecting for resistance by 83 times. Okay, I just listed off a 6-way resistant population and another site of action resistance just found for the first time in broadleaves. Can you guys think of 2.5 or realistically 3, because we can't put a half a site of action into a tank mix? So 2 or 3 herbicide sites of action, different classes or groups of chemistry that we can put in the tank to help manage, mitigate, reduce resistance? That's a tough question. And that's what Operation Weed Eradication is concerned about. There are really 2 key principles behind Operation Weed Eradication. The first one is having a 5-year plan, and the other one is thinking about that last weed standing. Why the last weed? Because the last weed standing is likely the weed that, even though it may not look it, it's probably the toughest weed in the field because it's overcome the selection pressures that we've applied throughout the year. One of the things that I think we don't necessarily have a great understanding or give enough appreciation to when we talk about herbicide resistance is how it actually comes about. When we apply a herbicide to a field, it's not that we're creating resistant weeds. We're actually just selecting for something that already is there. We are weeding out, so to speak, the weaker weeds, the ones that are susceptible to our very strong selection pressure, such as a herbicide. And we're leaving behind weeds that for some reason were just already different, that already had a way within their biology to overcome that pressure that we've applied. And because they're the only weeds remaining, the only ones to survive, they become the predominant populations in our fields over time, making for difficult to control weeds and problematic fields. That is why we think about the last weed standing. But what's this business about a 5-year plan? A 5-year plan focuses on weed biology, specifically thinking about our pigweeds, because they are right now the most problematic, most top of mind weeds to control. A lot can go right in 5 years, but a lot can go wrong in 5 years as well. If we think about just one weed remaining in our field at the end of year 1, that weed being a pigweed, we think about that one seed, or that one weed, that one plant, producing 100,000 seeds, which is pretty normal for a pigweed, right? We know that pigweeds produce very small seed, but they produce a lot of it, sometimes upwards of 500,000 seeds per plant. So the 100,000 that we're using in this example is actually pretty conservative. We figure that of those 100,000 seeds going into year 2, 50% of those are actually viable or able to grow. Of that 50%, we're going to say that only 30% of those seeds actually do decide to try and grow in that growing season. And then finally, we're going to control our weeds. We're going to use management practices, maybe apply a herbicide, maybe do some tillage. And as a result, we have 99% control, which means only 1% of the weed seed remains in the form of plants. But if we follow that math, in year 2, we have 150 pigweeds in our field. If we do that same math going all the way out to year 5, we end up with upwards of 500 million weeds. Like I said, in 5 years, a lot can go wrong. That said, in 5 years, a lot can go right as well. Thinking about the things that can go right, let's think about the biology of pigweeds. I just said that pigweeds have very small seeds that they produce a lot of. Because these seeds are very small, it means they're not necessarily very long-lived in nature. They either have to grow relatively quickly after they're produced, or they don't make it through the long haul. That said, we know that they have a limited life in our weed seed bank of our field. Less than 5% of a pigweed seeds remain viable or able to grow after a 3-year period of being in the field. So, ideally, stringent management and eradication mindset over a 5-year period can dramatically reduce the number of pigweeds that we have in our field. That stringent mindset, that eradication mindset, can take us from a train wreck level population down to economic control, and ultimately to what we hope for with Operation Weed Eradication, which is a 0 tolerance on pigweeds, an eradication goal. Operation Weed Eradication focuses not just on herbicide control of pigweeds. It also focuses not just on what you get within the rows. It's using cultural practices in and out of the field, as well as managing those field borders, or out here in Kansas where we have irrigation, I like to say managing our pivot road pigweed problems. Anywhere in, near, or around the field that has weeds that go to seed doesn't just contribute to that spot. We know that pigweed seeds are small and very easily spread and drug out into our field. So it's not just in the field, it's around the field that we want to manage these weeds, whether that means breaking out some tillage equipment in certain situations, or breaking out the shredder and making sure that we've mowed down the sides of our field before we go into harvest, before those weeds have hopefully set seed. Thank you guys for taking time to learn about Operation Weed Eradication today. BASF is excited to be a part of this initiative alongside our other industry partners. We hope that after learning a little bit more about pigweeds, you'll start thinking about having a 5-year eradication goal, and that you'll think twice before leaving behind that last pigweed standing. Because now you know that even though it doesn't necessarily always look like it, the last pigweed standing can be the toughest pigweed in the field. If you're looking for more information about Operation Weed Eradication, feel free to check out our website, operationweederadication.com. And remember, on-farm eradication starts with you.